Hi, you're tuning in to AWANI Review with me, Cynthia Ng, and joining me on the show today is the Chief Operating Officer of HSS Engineers, Puan Engineer Sharifah Azlina. Thank you so much for making time for this interview.
My pleasure.
Thank you for hosting us at this beautiful office. Now, you have close to 3 decades experience in engineering services, and of course one of the few women at the C-level in the engineering sector in Malaysia. Let's get to know you a bit more. As COO, tell us about your roles and responsibilities at HSS Engineers.
Pretty much simple, because I do the operation side of the company. What's more difficult is still the technicality of the engineering design and supervision and all that. But above all that, I also do budget, resources, to make sure that we have a profitable operation, look into the quality, environmental safety and health, which is a very mandatory requirement right now, and talk to staff, do the mentoring, become a role model, and as well as handheld some of the junior and young engineers, especially women engineers, to help them up.
Now let's talk about your background and talk about women engineers compared to the number of men in the engineering workforce is still severely lacking, not just Malaysia but throughout the world. So when you started your career as an engineer, how did it all begin? What made you go into engineering and what led you on to stay for almost 3 decades now?
Okay. I had wanted to do something different, and I wanted to make difference in people's life. So I think that was a good start, back then when I was 18, 17 years old, right after leaving school. And yes, I went into the engineering tertiary program for 4 years, came out. But let me just share a bit of statistic on the women engineering in the workforce, right? There's about 50% of women and men entering the STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics at university level. And I think it's to be lauded that almost all of them graduate. And then 24% goes into workforce as the engineers, women engineers. But unfortunately, what I'm lamenting is that only 6% remain in the career, 6 or 5 years.
And this is in Malaysia, right?
In Malaysia, that's right. So that's why I'm quite adamant that you have to do something about this.
Why is job retention a problem among female engineers in Malaysia?
I think what surprises me more is that a lot of people think that it's the physical attribute. You're on the soft side, so you're not fit to become an engineer, which is a tough profession. But I've been on the doing this research for the last 5 years, since 2013, and what amazes me is not so much of the physical aspect or the physics of the woman, but number one is because of the work environment. Number one, work environment, and it is not so conducive for the woman to stay and progress in their career. And then secondly, there's not much of opportunity to move up the ladder. So that's an important aspect as well. And of course, thirdly, we're a caretaker. We become mothers, and then we become the carer of the elderly. So although I think that should not be a penalty, but some women just retract and start to do their motherly duty and their daughterly duty and care for the family. That's the third aspect that made women engineers actually do not stay in the profession for long.
So let's talk about that experience, because you started at this company, HSS, many years ago, and you rose to the top of your company. How was it for you? What were some of the hurdles that you had to go through?
I went through the same thing that any woman engineer would have gone through. It was tough, it was difficult, but I guess the passion and the interest to remain in the career was with me, and I had very good support, right? And as I said, I was also keen on making women engineers stay. So what we did, I got involved with the Institution of Engineering Malaysia Women's Section. First, we set this section in Malaysia at the Malaysian level, and in 2013, we actually put up a paper to grow this women engineering section in the Asian Federation of Engineering Organization level that consists of 10 countries, Asian countries. So we had our inaugural meeting in 2013, and thereafter it was like no stopping. We network, you know, we see each other, we mentor each other on annual basis, and we just do collaboration and connection, both locally as well as the Asian platform. So I think that helped me a lot, you know, that to know that there are so many other women engineers who's in the same boat as I am, you see, and what we need is actually support, networking, and hand-holding of each other. Then celebrate the achievement of one another.
So only 6% of engineers in Malaysia are women, professional engineers.
Professional engineers, that's
so
right.
you mentioned earlier about the work environment and how it's not conducive for women to stay and rise to the top. Can you elaborate on what are the problems faced?
Now that we know what's stopping them progressing, I think a lot of the employer has started to open their eyes, and what they have done is to make the career progression much easier. You define what's expected of you, you define the work scope clearly. So I think that helps a lot in achieving the target, you know, or the expectation given of us. And then apart from that, there's also training, mentoring, you know, official training, as well as having a role model to guide you. Okay, so that has actually improved a lot in the industry, and it has helped the women engineers.
Now, what would the fundamental issues that preventing women to rise to the top in engineering? Is it because of the work culture, or is it because there's a sense of it's more male dominated and women couldn't fit in? If you can share with us your experience personally.
A bit of everything, and I think we had a lot more to juggle apart from work, technical matters. You go home, you also have to look into household matters and all that. So it really is prioritizing your role to the maximum during the working hours, coming back, putting on another hat, you see. And so having said that, it would help if employer understand the whole condition, the whole situation, and facilitate, you know, maybe by having care centers for children nearby office, and then give a longer maternity leave or paternity leave, just to help out in that sense. Yeah?
But this is not a problem faced in the engineering sector only. I think overall in the workforce there has been a lot of talk about improving conditions for women to stay in the workforce, to continue. But what is it about engineering that makes it so difficult for women to stay?
I guess the technicality, and as well as you have to be quite precise in what you do. So that demands a lot of focus and attention, you know, strictly during when you're doing the task or carrying out the task, okay? And often those with children, you know, at young age, they get disrupted when they're doing, when they're actually holding or carrying out their responsibility and tasks. So, and employers don't understand this, you see. So this is where I'm coming from, you know. When we go out there and network with each other, you know that the issue is real, and you know that you're not the only one who's facing the issue, but your children will grow up, you know, and all other things will make way for you. It's just to persevere and to look out for others in the industry, you know, to help you out.
Do women get treated equally to men in engineering, in your opinion?
I wouldn't say so. I would say we both have our strengths and weaknesses, and I think in combination that is what makes it very holistic, you see, and we leverage on the strength, and we adopt, you know, we raise up others who's in the weaker position.
Being outnumbered doesn't mean you're unwelcome, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes it's just about finding a place to belong. So despite being the few women on the job, have you ever felt like you didn't belong? Did you feel out of place?
Yes, well, in my very earlier part of my career, because there were not many engineers, right? And often people will say, oh, she's a lady engineer, let's just double check her work. You know, that kind of perception was there earlier on. But I would think now, with more engineers in the workforce, we're a bit more open, and we acknowledge their strength, so the employer are a bit more open and a bit more accommodating to women engineers.
Do you feel things are better now compared to before?
Correct. I think it's a much better environment. Yeah? And I think statistics also shows that, you know, there's about 6% or 7% of women in the engineering industry that has made it to the management or leadership role, and that's quite a laudable number, okay, to celebrate.
You mentioned earlier about the setting up the Asian Federation of Engineers organization, setting up the Women's Engineers section. So can you tell us about the efforts that you are doing, and what is your ambition or your goal with this?
Okay, we want to actually have more women engineers come up to the management and the leadership role. Henceforth, we have a lot of meeting and networking, and I wouldn't say that all the rules and regulation that we set when we first formed this formation is cast in stone. But over time, with the Industrial Revolution, you know, with the IR 4.0, you know, we tend to look at our approaches and adopt it to time and technology requirement, you see, and we share it across the 10 Asian countries, yeah, to boost up women engineers in the engineering faculty as well. And another important factor to that is to celebrate those who has actually made it and make them the role model to inspire, you know, the younger generation to also follow their footsteps.
Well, that's to get more people, more women interested in engineering. But going back to when we talk about female retention in engineering is a challenge. And then you also have another hurdle, which is to move up the ladder, especially, you know, from mid-level to senior to executive.
Right.
And tell us about your experience. What kind of support
I think
you would have needed to succeed?
Upskilling is an ongoing process. Upskilling your competencies. I wouldn't say that you should stop learning, and I wouldn't say that there's any point that I know everything, you see. So it's a career-long process. You need to know numbers, not only your technical numbers, but also budget, finance, and all that, you see. So you have to upskill yourself, and then you have to be very people-oriented, because you're in the management level, you talk a lot and you deal a lot with subordinates, right? Understand their EQ and their IQ. So all that jive into an equation to become a good leader. But it has not been easy. So a lot of time when you only have one leader above you, right? You also try to leverage on your peers, okay, to help you out. I would say that I'm not someone who's expert in everything, but I rely on those who are around me, like you know, some structure specialists for input on structural design or mechanical, you see. But at the same time, I suppose I do have that advantage of being able to manage them, manage the resources well.
Does it help that because you are from a very pure engineering background, in the sense that you actually go on the field, you meet with people on this side, and does it give you that extra clout or leverage when you are in the leadership role?
It does, but I'm basically a very much people person, all right? So all along, the position does help, but the knowledge is also important, you see, to be able to talk and to socialize and get your work done on site or elsewhere, you know.
Okay, tell us about how a typical day would look like for you. You guys are in the engineering services, so a lot of designing and modeling, but how often do you go on site? Your HSS is involved in some of Malaysia's major road infrastructure projects like the MRT1, MRT2, West Coast Expressway. Tell us about what's happening lately, you know, what's keeping you excited?
Okay, those mega projects are actually very challenging, is it? And they would actually spend over at least 3 years, if not to 4 or 5 years, okay? So it is quite a regular process for us to go through design, then construction supervision and handing over, is it? But it is each of the project carries its unique challenges, you know, like when I was involved in the Tun Razak Rehabilitation Center. So we had to look at how you provide facility that helps the handicapped. So that gives you a different perspective of engineering expertise, right? And I'm also involved in a lot of building projects that now utilize the building information modeling, which is one of the advanced technology in the engineering faculty. So that has actually helped me tremendously in getting design that is constructible on site, that can be done on time, within the budget. So that's another technology that we have adopted to facilitate the deliverable of our task.
Tell us a bit more about the BIM 3D modeling and how does it really help improve workflow, efficiency and innovation in a sense?
I would say building information modeling has been there since 2006. Unfortunately, we're a bit slow in adapting it in Malaysia. So back in 2012, we embarked on this another vertical in the group that provides solely this building information modeling. And so what we do is, before you actually go on site, you construct the model virtually on the PC, right? You check for clashes and you know that your design will work when the contractor moves to site. And when design works, there's no variation order. And when there's no variation order, you stay within the project cost and you stay within the project time given.
So it helps save cost and time,
yes,
essentially. Okay.
And less abortive work. So it all boils down to lesser carbon footprint, well-managed resources, right? And within time and budget.
So with projects such as the MRT 1, 2 and the big ones like Suk Expressway, you know, all these projects come with big public interest, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. What are some of the challenges that a company like yours or yourself face, you know, during undertaking such big projects that involve big public interest?
I think addressing the public outcries is the primary concern, right? Whilst you want a facility that facilitates the life and, you know, movement and people in society, but at the same time, you have to strike a balance between taking part of what the environment, you know, and then also making a balance between the social impact of it and the environmental aspect of it.
So how do you balance that? I'm interested to find out, because you have the hand of really looking at the overall urbanization of the place, because we talk about building more infrastructure. I don't know, it's great, but at the same time you want to maintain the balance of environment and as well as the social aspect of the place.
That's right. So we go out and talk to people. We have social survey, we have environmental assessment, where you actually deal with people. And part of the environmental is also to look into the natural habitat, flora and fauna as well as animals, you see. So all those aspects are part of the requirement that must be considered when you come out with the design of a facility, especially like LRT, MRT and road. Yeah? And it is a mandatory process that you go through to get approval, not only from the authority and regulatory body, but also that the public is well accepting it. Of course, there will be objection and protests along the way. So you would mitigate, you would you know, try to compromise and come up to a solution that's a win-win for both parties.
All right. Another big project that is being undertaken by HSS is part of the ECRL, the East Coast Rail project. Is back on track, but it's after its construction cost estimate was reduced by almost a third, correct me if I'm wrong. How has that impacted HSS as an independent consultant? You know, can you share the update so far on ECRL?
Well, you're right there. We have renegotiated our terms, we have revisited the design, and we have actually, we're back on track to, you know, to deliver it as stipulated by the government. And there was a little bit of optimization of the alignment, and again it goes through the social and the study of the environmental to work within the given budget of the government. So we've achieved that, we've executed another agreement, and we're on track to deliver it.
Okay. What are some of the exciting projects that we can look forward to from HSS engineers in the coming year?
I'm actually working on the IJ Institute Jantung Negara hospital expansion, and that's also another interesting project. It's for the pediatric cardiac ward, and we are now looking into technology, and one of the features that they may use is robotic or artificial intelligence to serve the patients and all that, you see, so that's something new. Then the other one that we studied was the Kuching Metro, that's in Sarawak. And the state government is very ambitious in wanting to use green renewable energy of hydrogen. So again, we're looking at hydrogen fuel trains or transit system, which is another one of this green, you know, venture and technology, and not done before in Malaysia. So So these are among the few projects that has captured address the technology.
So, no, in the case of, for example, IGN, you mentioned robots and automation, AI. How does engineering fit into it? How does it help?
Well, the robot still needs to be managed by people, and these people are typically people, engineers, IT, technologies. The human part will still need to understand the requirement before you design the robot to do the job. You see, they're just a facilitator, but you're still controlling. Engineers and ITs and architects still control so that you deliver according to the needs and the requirement of the end user.
I understand that HSS is also increasing its attention to the ASEAN region, where large-scale infrastructure projects are being commissioned. Tell us about HSS growth plans outside of Malaysia, perhaps.
We're very much into growing and expanding into the Asian region, and I think what we have looked at is, apart from Indonesia, in fact we're doing a few projects in Indonesia already, 3 particular transportation facility in Kalimantan, and we're also looking into expanding in Philippines. There's a transit opportunity there, or a metro opportunity. The other region is India. Chennai, for example, is looking at extending their metro.
You have an office, right?
Yes, we do have an office. That's where our BIM workforce is, building information workforce is. So we travel regularly to Chennai. But apart from Chennai, there's also other areas of India that they are opening up. I think, for instance, my boss is in Northeast India, so there's something brewing there. So we're always on the lookout for opportunity in the Asian region.
So what are the areas that get you excited, if you share with us, the prospects which you think are quite encouraging?
One thing that we're seriously looking is the vertical that deals with water. Because, you know, as population increase, so is the demand for basic amenity, right? For you to deliver water, you need to actually build the infrastructure. You need to tap the resources. You need to treat and refine the potable to the quality that's acceptable. So all this entails engineering efforts. So we're looking into that. And I think the government is also seriously looking into the water sector and the tariff that needs to be standardized, so that we have more capital that can be, put into this construction or in the water industry to develop the
Now, when we talk about water resources and supply management, the engineering portion is really important in the sense that to keep us to use resources in a smart and efficient way, to lower costs and not just costs, but also to use the resources in and
the technology.
Yeah. Right. So if you can share with us, what can we expect from a project like that in helping to manage resources more efficiently?
I think if you really look at the technicality of it, there's various ways of treating water. And there's also various sources of water that you can tap from. Just only the other day I was talking to one of the ministers on getting water from the environment, from the ambience, if there's shortage of water that's flowing underneath you. And of course, we have natural abundance of water, so technology will evolve, and we're always on the lookout to use the latest technology. And I think better technology would normally yield higher product at a lesser cost.
Okay. Now, what are some of the biggest challenges in your work you can share with us?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I think everything is a big challenge to me. But as I say, it's not so much of the technicality. Now it's much more of handling people. Talking to people and getting their trust and confidence when you deliver the job and the project, right? And I'm just so glad because I've been given a lot of opportunity to network myself by giving talk. I'm also an industrial advisor in Monash University. So all those present opportunity to mingle and to learn from each other. See? So far it has helped me in overcoming these challenges of handling and dealing with people.
All right. Now, just one final question about skills, skill sets of the future, jobs of the future. For an engineer, what skills do you see as vital for the engineers of tomorrow?
Okay. I think you need to be able to relay your ideas. So communication is very primary. I always tell, I do a lot of talks in university and school, career talk, as well as specific talks on engineering. So I tell them, once you have a lot of information, once you have a lot of ideas, you must be able to communicate and relay it effectively. So hence-wise, even for the new graduate engineers, I says writing and spoken skills, communication skill, apart from your engineering degree, is very important.
So it's not just the hard skills, it's the soft skills as well.
All right. That's right.
All right. Thank you so much, Puan Sharifah. It's been great to have you on the show. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.